So it's currently May the 4th, so I'm in my best Star Wars gear. Um, this week, don't forget you have a quiz that you should be taking um, on polars, and then we'll start complex numbers as soon as you're done with that, and then we'll finish up with that next week. Okay? So wanted to give you a little quick recap on complex numbers. Complex numbers deal with i's. Okay, so when you're dealing with an I, you have to remember that I, the big concept is that I is equal to the square root of -1. And that's our big major one. And then that would mean that I squared is equal to -1. Those two key concepts are going to be very much in use, in play here in complex numbers. Okay? So then what I would like to do now is just a quick refresher, just going over a couple of these. So we've got the square root of -81. We've got 8i squared. And we've got the square root of -12. And we've got I cubed. Okay? So for those four right there. Okay? So what I think about with these is I think about, so we got the square root of a negative number. That's going to be the square root of -1 times the square root of 81. So the square root of -1 becomes, brown doesn't work the best. Purple does though. Becomes I, square root of 81 becomes 9. So this is equal to 9i. Okay. Square root of -12, well, that would be the square root of -1, the square root of 4, and the square root of 3. So that this one becomes I, square root of 4 is 2, square root of 3 is 3. So what we do then is we write the number, if there's a number, so that would be 2 would come first, then I, then the square root of 3. Okay. I squared is -1, so this is 8 times -1, or just -8. I cubed is I squared times I squared is -1, so this is just -I. All right, so a complex number is a number that has two different parts in it. So like in 3 plus 5i, the 3 is the real part, and the 5i is the imaginary part. Individually, they would be a real number and an imaginary number. Together, they make a complex number. Okay? And with complex numbers, we can do operations. So we can add and subtract them, we can multiply them, and we can divide them. Okay? So I'd like to go through a couple of those just so that you see what we're talking about in terms of adding and subtracting them. Okay? It's all about combining like terms. Okay? So let me get some colors here because I've got color now and no shadows. Okay? So 2, leave this green, green. 2 and 4 can be combined. And pink. 3i and 5i can be combined. So that gives us an answer here of 6 minus 2i. Okay? Because we just combine the like terms. Okay? On multiplication, double distribute 2 times 4 and 2 times 5i, or negative 5i, excuse me. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times negative 5i is negative 10i. 3i times 4 is 12i. 3i times negative 5i is negative 15i squared. But remember, I squared negative 1, so this is really plus 15. Because negative 15 times negative 1 is positive 15. 8 plus 15 is 23. Negative 10i plus 12i is 2i. Okay? And those, I think you guys have access to this worksheet. Okay? So those are the two worked out examples that we have going on that one. Then on the back side, we have this other one. Now this other one, when we're dividing, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be multiplying both top and bottom by what's called the conjugate. So I take the same terms in the same order, but I just switch that negative sign to a positive sign. And now that purple fraction right here, that purple fraction is equal to 1. So I haven't changed the value of my fraction yet, but now I got to do some multiplication on top, and then I got to do multiplication on the bottom, and it's all good. Okay? So on top, we get 6i times 3 is 18i. 6i times I is 6i squared. On the bottom, we get too many markers. On the bottom, we get 3 times 3, which would be 9. 3 times positive I would be positive 3i. Negative I times 3 is negative 3i. Negative I times positive I is negative I squared. Okay? So remembering that I squared is negative 1, so this one here is negative 6. This one here is positive 1. And these two cancel each other out. Because positive 3i minus 3i is just 0. So on top, I get negative 6 plus 18i. On the bottom, I get 9 plus 1, which is 10. And then I look to see if I can reduce that. I've got negative 6, I've got 18, and I've got 10. All of those can be divided by 2. So my final answer would be negative 3 plus 9i over 5. Always reduce that at the end, and the reduction has to come from all of the terms. Okay? Be smart, be safe, wash your hands, and may the 4th be with you.